Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Trash. We're back again this week, yet again, with another podcast. Today I have with me, virtually, if we're being technical about it, Jake. Wait, hang on, I don't even know your last name. I'm sorry. It's Jake
Sandom.
There we go. We've got Jake Sandom with us again. So Jake and I kind of met online while I was trying to look for people to come onto the podcast and speak about stuff. So Jake told me that he was a recent graduate from the University of Auckland. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so he's done a degree in screen production and drama, and I thought, he seems to be interested in movies and stuff. So because I'm a movie buff myself, I think it would be nice to have him on the podcast. So here we are, talking trash about movies.
Awesome.
So Jake, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners who are listening to the podcast?
Yeah, of course. So I'm 21. I've recently graduated from the University of Auckland. I studied screen production and drama. Screen production is basically just a broad term for filmmaking and everything from like documentary filmmaking to working with actors, screenwriting, that sort of thing. And I'm currently looking for a job in the industry, anything like film, media related, but that's obviously a bit of a challenge at the moment with everything that's going on. And I'm just generally super into film, TV, acting, dance, anything creative really. I've always been into that, passionate about that since I've been a young little kid.
And when I was younger, I'm 23, so I'm not much older than you. But when I was younger, I was actually thinking of becoming an actor. But as I grew up, I kind of grew out of it. But no, I completely agree. Acting and screenplay and the whole media line is quite tough, especially now with the lockdown on. But you said you were really into like movies and shows and all that sort of thing. So if you had to pick your top 5 favorite movies of all time, what would they be?
Favorite top 5? There's this, like, one of my top movies is this Hong Kong movie called In the Mood for Love. Well, that's its English name. Do you know it?
No, I don't.
It's by Wong Kar-wai, and it's a really beautiful film. So that's one of the top ones, very obscure. And then Arrival. Do you know Arrival?
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
It's really good. It's like a sci-fi one, which is really interesting. What else? Like Blade Runner's like a really good one. Anything like Alfred Hitchcock, like Rear Window is really good.
Yep.
For me, so that's like 4.
One more.
Maybe like let's go like Toy Story. Toy Story is great.
Yeah. Well, I think all Disney movies are amazing.
Yeah.
To be honest, my pick of my top favorite movies is completely different to yours because I'm super commercial. Like my top favorite of all time would pretty much be Avengers Endgame / Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
Thor Ragnarok, mainly because of Taika Waititi and how he directed it. Silence of the Lambs, I really, really enjoyed.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs is so good.
It is. I really enjoyed Inception. It took me about 3 years to get around to watching it completely, but I did eventually, and I really, really enjoyed it. And slapstick comedies like, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Ace Ventura, Nature's Call, and essentially anything that Jim Carrey has done is like top of my list. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just like entertained. Like I don't really want to think about it. I want to be like entertained, and I think comedy is one of the hardest things to do in film, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, comedy is very challenging.
I'm also kind of into horror and like thrillers and stuff. Like, have you seen Us? The one that was.
I haven't actually seen Us. I've been meaning to get around to that. I've only seen obviously Get Out from Jordan Peele.
Yeah. Man, Jordan Peele is exceptional. I really enjoyed Get Out. And I think Us is slightly different in terms of it not really having like a deeper meaning.
Right.
It's just based on, it's scary, and I think his way of kind of portraying like characters is slightly different to what we're used to, which is quite new and refreshing. And the music that he picks is amazing. I'm not sure if he gets to pick the music or if like the music director is different and he gets to pick the music. But whoever's actually done the music on that movie has done an exceptional job.
Right, awesome. I have to check it out.
Absolutely, and I recommend it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love Get Out, so I'm sure
you'll like Us.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got a lot of actors that I'm a big fan of, so yeah.
The other thing I actually was meaning to talk about is your favorite genre of like movies or shows or whatever. So what would you say your favorite genre is?
Favorite genre? That's a great question. I mean, I'm like someone who's super open to like, as long as the story and the characterization, character development is good, any sort of genre. But I'm finding that more recently in the film climate that we're in, horror seems to be one where there's a lot of creativity, as you've just previously mentioned. So horror is one to like really look out for. It's been really interesting to see the developments in that. So I would probably lean towards horror at the moment, just because it's been the most innovative and creative at the moment.
Yeah, and I also hear that making horror movies is less expensive as well. I'm not sure for what reason. Maybe because they're kind of just using like a few kind of sets or few rooms. I also heard that there's a movie, I'm not sure if it's in English or not, but there was a movie that they did. I think it was Paranormal Activity. It was the first Paranormal Activity that they used only a handy cam or like a basic camera and shot with like a budget of $10,000 or something. I'm not sure, but that made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only kind of Paranormal Activity I really enjoyed, because after that it was just kind of making like a Fast and Furious franchise where they kind of kept upping the ante every single time, and I didn't seem to enjoy it as much. But the first Paranormal Activity, because it was so different, I think I really, really enjoyed.
Right, yeah. I haven't caught around to Paranormal Activity either, but no, it definitely sounds in line what the Paranormal Activity franchise is about.
Yeah. What other kind of horror movies are you into? What have you seen so far that you kind of enjoyed watching?
I mean, it's a lot of The Conjuring is really good. The Conjuring franchise is really interesting. I mean, I've only seen the first one, but I really enjoyed The Conjuring. That was quite an interesting one, really well done. And I guess more so like things that are horror-esque, but not necessarily. I maybe leaning more towards thriller, things like A Quiet Place. It's really good.
Oh yeah, man! I've just seen The Quiet Place, and man, I mean, I've binge watched The Office, and then I went on to Quiet Place, and I'm like, man, Jim looks so different.
It's a very different role for him. Yeah, but he's super talented in terms of him directing it as well, and
absolutely
that movie was really great.
And John Krasinski, so they're actually real life partners as well, which is quite nice to see on screen as well.
Yeah, I think that's quite fun to see, like a real couple sort of making this very interesting movie. Yeah.
I've also actually really enjoyed the remake of the older movies. Like, have you seen The New Omen?
But I haven't seen The New Omen actually.
It was released in 2006, I believe. There was an older version, I think in the 1970s, which was like the original one, and then came out the 2006 version. I haven't got around to seeing the older version, but I've seen the 2006 version, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think they got like the essence of what the original was.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So you say like you like horror movies. Your genre, you're kind of tilting towards horror. Is there any other genre that you'd like to explore in the future?
I mean, everything is
out of uni. Sorry, I was just saying that you're quite new out of uni. So what kind of genres would you like to experience? You've said that you want to experience, like do some sort of horror stuff, but what's something else that you'd like to do?
Definitely like I'm I'm a huge I've always been since a kid. Probably the one that's pulled me most into film is action films. That's
Uh-huh.
probably the one I've seen the most.
Yeah.
Just loving that sort of like big blockbuster feel, as you said,
Hmm.
like Avengers and stuff. Like I'm a big
Uh-huh.
Marvel fan.
Yeah.
I've seen like all of them.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of anything action, but also anything like drama related. I think just drama is like a general. I mean, everything's a drama technically, which my media studies teacher always said. So drama's not really a genre, but like if
Hmm.
you know what I mean, like sort of more just
Yeah.
focusing on personal stories.
Yeah.
Um, those sort of Oscar movies, those sort of things. Are, like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of those because come Oscar season, I'm always watching those sort of
Yeah.
movies. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And would you say they're also quite grounded, as far as I'm aware?
yeah, definitely much more grounded in reality and focusing on oftentimes like true stories or
Yeah.
just kind of trying to focus on the societal issues or sort of
Hmm.
things that they see in society and they want to focus on that.
Hmm. No, absolutely. So since you've done like screen production and stuff, what would you say your favorite part of screen like filmmaking is? I know there's different areas that you can kind of specialize in, like VFX, post production, pre production, all that sort of thing. What would your favorite part be?
That's a good question. I feel like all aspects are really different and they offer something that's really unique and something that's really exciting to everyone. And every part of the process is fun in its own way. I would say mainly the actual filmmaking process. So the
Uh
production
huh.
process is actually quite a lot of fun. It's probably the most challenging in terms of you having to be in quite a stressful like area because it's a lot of you're limited on time and you're limited on how you can actually get the shot and you realize that the shot's not working out as you want and then the actor says they have to leave in 3 hours and
Yeah.
then you're
Yeah.
racing against time. But it's
Hmm.
one of those things that even though it's a lot, it's very stressful. It's um, just a lot of fun in terms of it's where I feel like the most creation happens. I mean, editing as well is a big place where, and editing's a lot of
Hmm.
fun. But I would say that while filming is probably the most enjoyable, just because like you're on your feet and the time goes by so quickly, and you're getting to interact
Uh
and
huh.
work with so many different people.
Hmm. And I guess the social interaction would be nice as well, kind of interacting with all your actors, directors, your screen assistants, whatever. I haven't done a degree in screenplay, so I don't know who else would be on. Maybe, I don't know, your assistant director, all those sort of things.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how big the production is. Obviously, since we're
Mhm.
students,
Yeah.
it was often just a group of four of us working on a film, and
Uh,
we would just sort of divide the roles into someone doing the camera, someone doing the lighting, someone, helping the actor, that sort of thing.
uh-huh. And did you also do a lot of your writing by yourself, or would that be kind of supplied to you? I'm assuming that you'd write it by yourself.
A lot of it was, written by ourselves. We'll break off into groups and write collectively as a group, or a
Hmm.
lot of individual writing for anything that we had to produce.
Hmm. So, what was like your first year like at uni doing your screen production degree? Because I'm assuming it would be slightly different to what other degrees are like. Because I've done like a degree in nursing, so I've done it completely different. I've got a more science based background, whereas I'm assuming your background would be slightly different. Having more creative freedom and whatnot.
Yeah. It's definitely going down the arts degree route is quite different, probably from like the science aspect.
Hmm.
But in terms of like first year is pretty normal to like any sort of uh, arts degree that you're doing in terms of that. Only from second and third year onwards, you get to do practical work. So in first year, you're actually only doing theoretical work. So it's just a lot of lectures and a lot of tutorials and exams and that sort of thing. Just getting the idea of the background behind how filmmaking works in the film industry and how to analyze film and what makes a good film and everything like that. And then from second and third year, you get to actually start working with cameras and tripods and lighting and audio equipment and editing.
Man, that must be fun. Like, I'm not jealous, but like, I really appreciate that you'd be able to kind of work with different cameras and stuff, because I'm into technology and cameras and laptops and whatnot, and being able to like dibble your hand in everything must be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's really fun to like learn how to use. I think lighting is super challenging, way more challenging. Like I give props to any professional lighting person because it's so much more challenging than anyone thinks. But that's a lot of fun, because you can also use like gels and stuff which change the color of the lighting. So we did this really cool sort of like house party short film where we used a lot of different lighting gels and so basically just different pieces of paper to make the lights different colors, and we had these really cool like pink and purple colors. So a lot of working with the lighting equipment is a lot of fun. And then obviously you have audio and you have camera, which is a lot of fun. It's a bit to wrap your head around. But
that's it. Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, but definitely coming out of it, it's a lot of fun that you get to work with things like that.
Did you get to do a lot of like visual production and VFX and sound effects and whatnot at uni, or would that be more postgraduate sort of thing that you?
That would probably, I mean, if you want to do VFX, that's actually probably more of like a specialized course. I know someone who I used to work with actually went to, I think it was AUT or maybe a Unitech or somewhere where they actually specialize more in that sort of thing. I think like Yobi, like one of those, like it's more of a digital arts school. If you want to do sort of VFX and that sort of thing, you have to go more to like a visual arts school, probably places like Whitecliffe and things like that, which more specialize in that. Whereas the screen production course at University of Auckland is more an all-around generalized course, giving you the basics, and then we actually specialized in things like working with actors and documentary filmmaking in third year. So we a slightly different approach to VFX.
Right, because I've been kind of reading up on VFX and looking up on YouTube how people are doing it, and I like to kind of watch the breakdowns of movies. And I think two things that stand out. Sorry, not two things. Two production companies that kind of stand out for VFX for me. One of them is Weta Digital, our New Zealand homegrown sort of thing. That's based in Wellington. They've done like the Avengers, they've done the Jumanji movies that have just recently come out. They've done Deadpool, and they've done, I think, the 7th and 8th season of Game of Thrones as well.
Right.
I went back to their website and looked at their breakdown of how they did it and stuff. And it's exceptional what you can do with visual effects. It's quite amazing. The other thing I was looking at is there's a production called Red Chillies Entertainment, which is an Indian company based in, I think, Mumbai. They do a lot of the visual effects in Bollywood movies that have quite a lot of visual effects taking place. And they do like their breakdown and they post it on YouTube. And there was one of the American VFX artists reacted to, and they broke down, was for the movie called Zero. And essentially there was an actor who the team reduced to like a small person. And it was quite nice how they did it, because they had to reshoot that scene, I think they said about 20 times, and in all different angles, with and without people, and at different heights and stuff. And in the end product was so smooth, you'd actually think that this person is actually quite short.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is quite amazing how much you can do with visual effects. But again, like, unless you have like a good script, I don't think visual effects is of any use.
No. Yeah.
To be completely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, VFX is definitely something that is really useful, and it's something that can really enhance the story. But good storytelling and good characters and good performances by actors is something that you can't really beat, which is an interesting thing because there's a lot of discussion always in terms of the ethical nature of VFX. You know, now that they can fully sort of map a person and bring people who were originally dead back to life, and it's, you know, with things like Carrie Fisher and another character from Star Wars that they brought back to life, which is sometimes questionable, but there's always that discussion about whether it's right or not. But at the end of the day, I saw a VFX artist talking about how you know, people are scared that maybe VFX will take over and that there won't be people acting in films and they won't need people anymore. But he really just reiterated that, you know, you can never get the performance, you can never get the feel of what a real actual person is doing on screen. So I think that there's a lot of interesting discussion around VFX and its use in film. But as you said,
and I guess
storytelling.
Absolutely. And I guess the thing with VFX is you can only connect so much to a character that's not actually real as well. Say, for example, if we take Thanos, yes, the Thanos completely is VFX, but again, it was the voice behind Thanos that actually we connected to. I don't think we really connected to the character. It could have been completely different looking and we would still have connected the same way because of how he was portrayed and written into the universe. And like you said, like without actually actors doing the real job, I don't think there's any kind of depth to the character in VFX.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's one that definitely without Josh Brolin behind Thanos, it would be very different. And yeah, like you said, you could make him like green and he could be the exact same character as long as it's written in the same way. He has the same effect in the plot in the movie.
I think I want to go slightly deeper into where media is heading now. So what's your opinion of where media is in general heading towards? Because personally, I see it heading kind of onto the online platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, etc., etc. Because I see a lot of Netflix originals coming out, and a lot of movies are kind of going directly onto the online streaming platforms. I also heard that there were smaller movies. I can't remember which, but they're all thinking of going on directly to the streaming account because of all the lockdown and stuff. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to where film and media is going in terms of it moving towards a streaming world. That's definitely a big sort of question that people have been focusing on for a long time, and it's definitely changed very recently, very rapidly. I mean, you used to see films get like a theatrical and quickly go onto Netflix, but now that's obviously happening. And then obviously, as I think what you were talking about is a lot of the Universal picture films like Invisible Man and things like that had to cut their release because of coronavirus and had to jump straight onto being on a digital platform. And I think that there's going to be, like we're already seeing, there's a lot of Netflix originals, things like Marriage Story, The Irishman. There's a lot of films that are being financed through Netflix and are really being a big thing on Netflix and for people to watch films on Netflix. So I think it's going to keep growing that films are going to be distributed and shown on Netflix. I think it's good because with things like The Irishman, Scorsese was saying that he couldn't get any financing from anywhere else, and Netflix was like, we'll take you on and we'll give you lots of money, and Netflix likes to sink in a lot of money to a lot of different projects. So I think in terms of what viewers get to see. It's a good thing in general, and Netflix seems to still be trying to give people the satisfaction of giving people who want to see it in the cinema a theatrical release, and giving what most people nowadays seem to want is just to watch it straight on Netflix from their home. But I definitely think that I don't think, the movie theatre industry is going away anytime soon. I mean, it's the billion-dollar industry, so it's not going to be jumping away soon. It's definitely changed a lot. Smaller films will be suffering a bit. I mean, they'll be fighting for the market. But, Jason Blum, as you know, with horror is doing a really good thing of making really cheap films and making heaps of money. We saw that most recently with The Invisible Man. So I think it's interesting because with the film movie, like in cinema experience, it's definitely going to be your really big tier Avengers MCU movies that will continue to sort of dominate the big theaters. But what we're also seeing, I think, is some really interesting moves by other smaller distribution picture theaters like Universal and things like that, where they're focusing more on lower budget but creative films to still make a profit, and there's some interesting creativity coming out of that.
And like you said, you mentioned The Irishman on Netflix. I think I just want to make a special mention to two Netflix specials two Netflix originals I've seen recently. One of them being a documentary, which is called Don't F with Cats. I'm not sure. Have you seen it before?
I've heard of it. My friends were talking about it.
Man, it is so good. It is a documentary. I think it happened in 2010. I don't go into too much detail, but it's about this internet serial killer and people kind of on the internet going out and finding him and that sort of thing. And the other one was Murder Mystery, which was a thriller comedy sort of thing with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think I just enjoyed it because it was funny. But again, Netflix is putting a lot of money into those kind of things. I think they also picked up Lucifer once it went off. I think it was NBC who was. I'm not sure which production company was producing Lucifer, but after they stopped producing it, Netflix picked it up, and now it's on Netflix, and Netflix is actually producing Lucifer.
I saw that. They do a lot of that sort of thing that they revive. They've been reviving a lot of shows, like they did that with Arrested Development. So there's a lot of that which happens on Netflix, which is interesting.
It is. So I think we're just coming to the end of our podcast, and I've just got a few questions for you, and I think we'll try and make it quick because I'm sure you're busy as well. So I think you've already mentioned what kind of genre you'd be interested in. So why don't we just kind of move on to the last round? So it's a bit of a original idea. To be honest, it's not. It's a rapid fire. So I've got 5 questions. Oh, actually no. Yes, I've got 6 questions I'm going to ask you, and I want you to answer them as fast as you can. Okay.
Sweet. Okay.
On the spot. Okay. Here we go. So question 1: who's the founder of Weta Digital? There are 3. You just have to name one.
Taylor?
Sweet. Next one. Question 2: who's portrayed the character of Korg from Thor Ragnarok? Question 3: who has portrayed the character of Smaug in the movie The Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug? Sweet. Who's the Prime Minister of New Zealand? I know. That was. I was just trying to throw you off. How many sides does a hexagon have?
How many sides does a hexagon have? Oh my god, I'm so bad at maths.
Okay, you've got 5 seconds.
How many hex?
1, 2, 3,
5? I don't know.
4,
oh my god, I feel so stupid.
5,
oh my
6,
god. Okay.
6 sides. Last question. How many days is this going to edit? How many days will this take for me to edit the podcast?
A day.
Okay. No, I was just trying to throw you off, man. That was all good. No, you did well. You got 5 out of
I'm just
4 out of 5, right?
Hence why I did a degree in arts.
To be completely honest, I looked it up. I'm not good at maths either. I looked it up. It's Yeah. But look, no, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast. Unfortunately, I don't have a prize for you at the end of the podcast for your being like an excellent sport. But again, thank you so much for coming on. And one last thing. So what's your social media handle, just in case people want to follow you from what they've heard in the podcast?
I have mainly, I guess, just follow me on Instagram. It's at Jake Sandom. So at JakeSandom.
Sweet. So guys, if you've liked the podcast, if you've enjoyed what Jake's been talking about, and if you like movies in general, go follow Jake. And yeah, I think that's the end of the podcast. So if you've enjoyed the podcast, please recommend it to your friends and family. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Talking Trash, the greatest ever podcast that anyone has ever made.